starting this recording, starting that recording. Noise gates off, run your clap.
Here we go in 3, 2, 1.
Anchors up, sails at full. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Doing all right, Jared. Doing all right. How are you doing today?
Doing better.
Better.
Time.
That's the
healing
word. That's the
wounds. Word. And so on and so forth. Been diving into recruiting with national signing, the early national signing period. I always want to call it early national signing day, but it's not that. It's the early signing period. Got a 2027 quarterback because, and I know no one wants to hear any compliments about Ryan Day right now. The fact of the matter is the man knows how to recruit quarterbacks, and Ohio State just got a really good one for 2027. Yeah. You know, there's still some, we don't need to go into a full-blown Ohio State recruiting thing right now, but there are a lot of, in the recruiting realm, there's a lot of things to feel really good about right now, and I needed some stuff to feel really good about, so I've been looking into that. There's a lot of positive progression in that realm at the moment, but that might be a different episode for a different day. In fact, since Ohio State won't be playing this upcoming weekend, we might just do a recruiting episode. So, this week. But, regardless of all of that, Kyle, this is Collegiate Chaos. We won't be talking about basketball, Austin. But we will be talking about the week that was in college football, and we're not going to be able to help ourselves. We are going to talk a little bit about the upcoming week as well. That's just the nature of conference championship week. Who is and who isn't playing this upcoming week plays a huge role in how we're going to tier list the tier list we're doing. I think 11 of the 12 teams are basically locked in. I mean, that's kind of the conversation Kyle and I had on here last week, where we kind of agreed on 11 teams, and then we fought for 5 minutes about Alabama versus Miami. So let's get the tier list up.
All right.
Where
do you want to start, Jared?
S tier.
Where do you want to start?
I think we have to drop Ohio State down.
Yep, we do.
Although here's the thing. I feel like I have to move Ohio State down because they lost. But, and we do. That being said, I think that they are legitimately still favorites to win it all. And I know we're all feeling super pessimistic right now. I get it. I get that we're feeling pessimistic right now. But, don't ask me, ask Vegas. Ohio State, at every casino I have looked at, Ohio State is the second most likely, according to Vegas, to win the national title this year. Still. Because, quite frankly, Ryan Day's a great coach as long as he's not coaching against Michigan. Yes, Jared, but that's logic. I know. We don't want to hear logic right now. This is a vibes pod. No, it's not. This is not a vibes pod.
Oregon won against Washington. They say put. Texas beat Texas A&M and Notre Dame. Surprisingly, I was closer than I thought it was going to be, but Notre Dame did beat USC as well. But the other teams here that's kind of on the, I think there's one team that maybe you could put in S tier. I'm not there yet. Nor do I think they, well, maybe this time next week, if they win, maybe I'll put them in the S tier. But Penn State always hovering right at that top of that A tier, trying to go to S tier. But I do have to ask the question: do you think they should go up to S tier, or should they remain in A tier? Me personally, I think they stay in A tier. Wanted just to bring that up and get your thoughts, Jared.
Okay, so you know how I just got done saying this isn't a vibes-based pod? Well, I think S tier is vibes-based. Okay? Let me just immediately contradict myself. I think S tier is vibes-based. And I do not see Penn State as a team that's going to compete against the best competition week in, week out. I just simply don't see it. I have a really hard time seeing. Right now, I have a really hard time seeing anyone but Oregon, Ohio State, Notre Dame winning the national title. Maybe Texas has the talent. Georgia has the talent, but they've both been really inconsistent, including down the stretch. And in a playoff format, you can't be inconsistent. Weirdly, I think SMU has a shot. I don't see it. Like they're a very fast team, and when you're playing inferior competition, being a fast team gets you a lot of. By shot, I'm talking 2%. Fair. I quite frankly don't even necessarily want Texas in the S tier anymore. I'm not saying we take them out necessarily, but they've just, if we're really trying to stay true to like favorites to win it all, their inconsistency as of late is going to bite them in the ass at some point.
And it may, yeah, it definitely may. They have for the better of the second half of the season here, they haven't really put together a full game where we saw like how dominant they were, especially earlier in the year here. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen that from Texas here.
No, we have not.
All right. So the other teams here, Penn State.
Now that's a vibe, Austin.
Yeah. Penn State takes care of business over Maryland. Boise State won over Oregon State. SMU won. Georgia won. Indiana shutout. They shut out Purdue 66-0. You're talking about a statement. I know it was Purdue. But still, 66-0 still.
Sure.
You think of trying to have some kind of style points at the end of the season there. I mean, that's about as much as you can do with that kind of opponent.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to make the argument that Indiana shouldn't be one of the wild cards. Listen, you have Oregon and Penn State. They're both making the playoffs, regardless of what happens. They're obviously playing for a bye. That's obviously incredibly important. Although some have argued that the 5th seed might be better. I don't necessarily agree, although I get it. I get the logic. But I'd rather not play an extra ball game personally.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly fair to say that no matter what happens between Texas and Georgia, I think they both make the playoff. And I know some people might say that that's only the case if Georgia wins, but I don't agree. I think that even if Georgia picks up a third loss in the SEC title game, I still think they make the playoffs. Now, how they lose, if Texas completely obliterates them,
but here's the $1 million question though, Jared. Let's just hypothetically, because it's a 2-loss team. It's the perfect example here. Let's just say Texas finally puts it together in the second half of the season here, puts together a dominant game and just obliterates Georgia. Let's say they win 42-14. Say they win 42-14. Absolutely dominates Georgia.
Okay.
Will the committee punish Georgia for playing the extra game in the conference championship game? Or will the committee look at it and say, hey, like you're not one of the pun intended, one of the big dogs here. You're going to be kicked back a lot.
I mean, I think it's an interesting conversation. My money is that they're in no matter what. Even in a 44-14, honestly, I still think that they get in. But all they have to do is not get obliterated, and they're definitely in my opinion. But I kind of think that they're in no matter what, if I'm being honest. They might lose a home game. If they get obliterated, they won't get to host a playoff game. But they're, I don't think it's going to cost them a playoff spot at this point. So
right.
Big Ten are getting both of their conference title game in.
Indiana's in.
Yeah, SEC's getting both of theirs in. Indiana's in.
Ohio State's in.
Ohio State is in. I think Tennessee is in.
I think Tennessee's in. So if you want, just for the sake of let me the conversation here, Jared. Just for the conversation here.
Can I switch this up and just do conference champions in S tier? I know that's not what we're actually doing, and I can put it back, but just to make this as visually easy to read as possible. So I'm gonna throw Boise up there. I'm gonna let's throw SMU up there, and let's throw Arizona State up there. So, assuming that the conference title games go chalk, these are your. Well, I don't even know if it. Assuming the conference title games go chalk, they go exactly how we expect them to do.
This is pretty much the order then.
The order? Well, in this case, so. Penn State would lose, so I think Notre Dame would. I'm not that worried about the order, to be honest with you. I think that's a separate.
Yeah.
Well, in this situation,
for Notre 1 through 4.
I actually think Penn State would fall after they lose, and Notre Dame would get the 5th spot, or excuse me. Well, yeah, the 5th seed. But anyway, I don't think that's super important.
Okay. All right. So we got what is it, 5, 10, 11 teams here.
Do we think? Well, and I think Indiana is not necessarily. I don't know how the committee is gonna. Like Ohio State beat Indiana pretty handedly. Indiana's in. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't think they'll be seated above Tennessee or Ohio State.
For the sake of the argument here, let's move Miami down to C tier.
Yeah, let's not get too worried about the seeding. Let's not get too caught up in the seeding.
Okay, so we got 11 teams here.
And by the way, can I just go ahead while we're here? Can I go ahead and just drop Colorado, Texas A&M, and Tulane out of B tier, just to clean things up?
Yep.
All right.
As well as your Raging Cajuns.
Yeah, as well as the Raging Cajuns. They're not gonna.
And BYU. And
BYU.
And Ole Miss.
Probably Ole Miss. I don't.
In Miami too. Like I don't see a way Miami gets in as well.
No. Miami's out. I'm gonna leave. Just for the sake of, let's just do the obvious ones. Let's just keep Ole Miss and Miami up there for now. We'll come back to that. As you got to keep Tulane. Austin says you got to keep Tulane in case Boise loses. I disagree.
Yep.
Tulane lost.
If
Tulane lost this last week to Memphis. If Boise the AP loses, didn't even rank them.
Yeah. If Boise loses,
there has to be another champ, Jared. Yes, I know.
Yep.
Watch as I move UNLV up to B tier.
Yep. They would just swap. UNLV.
I think it's the Mountain
Boise
West champion.
Flop. Yep.
You think UNLV beats out Tulane? Yeah, because they have to beat Boise to do it. The AP currently has UNLV ranked. They don't have Tulane ranked. And I know it's not up to the AP. Granted. Kyle has a screenshot of the CFP playoff predictor in here, and they have UNLV at 27.5%. If that means anything to you. I'm not saying it's the be all end all, but there it is.
No, no,
Do you think
0.
Army could beat out? No, they had one game against a competitive football team this year,
Mm.
and they didn't perform well.
So, so for those that's listening to us and can't see
Yeah,
us visually,
we
so
just we just did a lot there.
Currently in S tier, we have Oregon, Texas, SMU, Boise State, and Arizona State as your 5 conference champions
Yeah,
currently.
they're not actually like S tier. We're just trying to do the playoff right
yep,
now.
and then the at large is Notre Dame, Penn State, Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State, and Indiana.
Okay.
If you're following along, that is 11 here. So just for the sake of what you have on the board here, Jared, Clemson, Iowa
Mm-hmm.
State, and UNLV all have they win, they're in, and they swap with whoever's in either an
They're
S or A tier there.
They're equivalent, yes.
Yep. So I would move Alabama to the right of all of those just for the sake of just visually here.
Okay.
Alabama currently in the AP.
Ah.
I know the AP doesn't mean anything right now, and when this is released, like the CFP will be coming out a few hours or later on in the day. Alabama in the AP right now is 11th, which is the perfect number for them right now.
Yeah. I agree. Now
I almost think here that Alabama is pretty much in here. They come in as the lowest
how
seed.
the turns have tied from last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
Now, can I move South Carolina up into B tier real quick? They just got a decisive win over Clemson.
They did, yep.
So I'm not just real quick. Who makes it? Maybe we throw. I'm not throwing BYU up there.
This week's CFP rankings has so much on the table. If you're Alabama, South Carolina, Miami, and Ole Miss, those 4 teams, so much relies on what the committee decides to rank them as this week. Whoever's going to be rated the highest, like that's going to be the team that's going to be in between those 4. But all four teams do not play at all, so they can't improve their stock, nor really anybody who's going to be ahead or behind them is really going to put Alabama or any of those 4 back further anyway, because like we just mentioned, one of the teams is going to jump ahead. I think the only case that can happen here, now that I'm talking this through, Jared, let's say Clemson. If Clemson beats SMU by a smidge, let's say it's a 1-point win, 2.2, 3-point win.
Okay.
Clemson gets in as a conference champion, and I think you could almost maybe put SMU still in there, being that 12th, that final ranked team. You could have that argument.
It would technically be 11th, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not actually.
Yeah. No, they could be if Boise State wins, SMU drops.
I don't
3 or 4 spots. They could be 12th there and would knock Alabama out. I think really that's the only case that I see this happening here.
Yeah. I don't know if I agree.
So if you think SMU loses by 3 points, 2 points, 1 point to Clemson, they're going to be knocked down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots.
I don't know. Listen, I actually think that's the right.
Just went down 5 spots to an unranked Michigan game, Michigan team here.
Yep. Listen, I have a hard time seeing the College Football Playoff Committee choosing SMU over Alabama. And yes, that is a uniform argument.
Mm-hmm.
That is a laundry-based argument. But this isn't me saying what I would do. This is me trying to say what I think the playoff committee would do. That's my read on it. To be clear, that's me trying to read the CFP, not me saying what I would do. I think I would take SMU over Alabama personally. If you're going with the team playing the best ball right now, then it's South Carolina, to be honest. Maybe. I'm not going to say no to that. Well, and I think we also need to talk about what if Iowa State beats Arizona State, because Arizona State's incredibly hot right now. You want to talk about a team that is just playing incredibly good football right now. I think it would be a shame to leave Arizona State out of it along those same lines.
Mm-hmm.
But I have maintained for a long time that it will be 4 SEC, 4 Big Ten, Notre Dame, and then 3 other conferences get 1 representative. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying that's what I think the CFP will do. And I'm not, for the record, not saying it's wrong. If you look at the level of competition currently in the Big Ten and the SEC compared to the other conferences, it's night and day right now. So I understand the wins and losses have to matter argument. I get it. I do. And I'm not even, again, saying I disagree. But you do have to look at, like, who have you beat? Who have you lost to? And anyone outside of the Big Ten or the SEC is at a really big disadvantage as far as their strength of schedule and the level of competition that they've faced all year. We'll continue this conversation after the ad break. That was a pretty weak lead into the ad, but whatever. I'm tired. The sloopcast.com is where you can find a full landing page filled with all of our links. I'm going to go through a bunch of our links real quick, but just know you can find all of them at thesloopcast.com. Join our Discord community, discord.thesloopcast.com. You can support us financially, patreon.thesloopcast.com. You can go to our YouTube page and watch all of these episodes. You can also find us in your podcast app of choice. I'm not surprised by that. At the lost my train of thought. Austin just informed us that Gabe Powers is announcing he's going to transfer. Time to fire up the departure tracker. That we do need to get going in the Discord server. One of many trackers and info pages that we have in the Discord. Discord's not just a community, it's also a resource, quite frankly. We have a lot of really cool stuff that will help you track a lot of things in the Discord server. So discord.thesloopcast.com. Let's just focus on that one. Come join our Discord community, discord.thesloopcast.com. Let's get back to the pod. Listen, straight up, Gabe Powers was in a position where he was supposed to get a lot of playing time this year. And quite frankly, Reese stole that from him. When you start getting surpassed by younger players, it's probably for the best that you move on.
Yep.
Is what it is.
All right, let's talk about the 12th spot here. It's the 12th spot here. It's most likely going to be between, as I mentioned before, Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, in Miami.
For us right now, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think so. And quite frankly, sitting here at week 14, it's Alabama.
Which is crazy to think, because you think about like looking at
I think it's a difficult conversation next week.
it is.
Next week, it's a difficult conversation. When we see who loses and how they lost in the Big 12 game and the ACC game, those are going to be like, who loses those games and how bad did they lose and will they get in over Alabama? But that's a conversation for next week. Today, right here, right now, it's Alabama.
I mean, can you say that with like 100% definitive though?
Right now, yes. I want
Why?
Alabama over
Why?
South Carolina, over Ole Miss, over Miami, over this week's Clemson, over this week's Iowa State, over this week's UNLV.
Okay. Why is that? Because I got a totally different side of it. So explain to me.
I mean, if you want to, I mean, who do you have? And if it's up to you, if I just left it up to you, who's in your 12th spot?
I'd say based on resume, based on the performance and who they've lost to,
Mm-hmm.
and how they lost to,
Mm-hmm.
I'd put the Rebels over Alabama.
I'm sorry, what?
Both teams have a win over Georgia. Both teams. Both teams.
I thought you were talking about UNLV.
Ole Miss. I forgot UNLV or the Rebels too.
So did I. I was about to pause the episode and ask Kyle if he was okay. Whew. All right. Needed that.
Both teams had bad losses over, like, Alabama has a loss over Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. Oklahoma, really bad loss, and I want to state that up front here, because at this point we're nitpicking between right here, and we have to nitpick.
We're nitpicking
the losses as well too. So
we're nitpicking.
24-3 against Oklahoma. Looking at Ole Miss's losses, 3-point loss to Kentucky, which is kind of like Alabama, 5-point loss to Vanderbilt.
Comparable.
And they lost by 7 to Florida recently too, while Alabama recently lost by 21 to Oklahoma. And they both lost, to a ranked SEC team as well too. Alabama lost 7 points by Tennessee, and Ole Miss lost by 3 points to LSU too.
Okay,
so
now
again,
okay,
nitpicking these all here.
That all sounds great.
I would pick Ole Miss.
If we're just looking at the losses,
Alabama.
I agree with you. Now,
okay, what's the wins?
Yeah, you tell me. You got the schedules up. Who Alabama's best 3 wins? Just tell me best 3 wins from each team.
Okay, Ole Miss's best wins is Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Is South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And I would probably put Wake Forest up there. Then I would say
that's a huge drop off to 3, but I don't know if Bama's is any better.
All right. So Alabama's is Georgia,
mm-hmm.
LSU,
mm-hmm.
Auburn.
Okay. I mean, that's obviously they both beat Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
We'll call that chalk.
I will state again. Alabama beat Georgia by 7. Ole Miss beat Georgia by 18.
Sure, again, but Georgia made a huge comeback after Bama had destroyed them, Alabama embarrassed them in the first half of that game. I'm just saying, to say just 7 feels
You got to
feels like you're underselling it. I
You got
understand.
to play the
I
entire
understand.
game.
But to say just 7, I feel like undersells what Bama did in that game.
Again, 7-18. Looking at
Ole
the
Miss,
results,
I would say Ole Miss is
Ole Miss
second.
has the better win.
Ole Miss's second win is better than Alabama's second win, but Alabama's third win is significantly better than Ole Miss's third win.
Auburn's not that good.
Auburn's,
I wouldn't say significant.
You have to look at Auburn over the second half of the season. Auburn slowly turned into a pretty decent football team. There's a very young football team that got a lot better as the season went. So you can look at the first half of Auburn's season, and you can, not unlike Florida, who I think was much the same. Florida was terrible at the beginning of the season, started to look pretty decent by the end of the season. There are a bunch of those teams out there. I think Auburn's one of them. So the November 27th or whatever day it was version of Auburn was much better than the September 27th version of Auburn, is my point. That's a pretty decent Auburn football team at that point in the season.
But I would say,
and also we're comparing it against Wake Forest,
2.
Kyle.
Yeah,
it's not a high hurdle to hurdle.
It's not. But neither is Auburn. Auburn won 2 games in the SEC.
I understand that.
Which is the same as Wake Forest. Wake Forest won 2 games in their conference too. So.
Oh, don't you dare compare to the SEC to the ACC. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. You just made my case. You just made my case for me there.
But still, Ole Miss's top two wins is better than Alabama's top two wins. So
winning 2 games in the SEC is like winning 7 games in the Big Ten. Haven't you heard?
I'd put Ole Miss. I'd put Ole Miss based on.
Can we talk about South Carolina?
On everything. Sure. South Carolina. So I'm going to do the same thing here.
Yeah. Best 3, worst 3. Or best 3, I guess.
Lost to LSU, Ole Miss, and Alabama. We'll say that they lost significantly to Ole Miss.
Okay. I also want to point out they got jobbed against LSU. But conversation we don't need to get into. They lost the game, but they got jobbed against LSU.
Okay. So their best wins is Clemson, Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Vanderbilt.
Okay. I think
Oklahoma.
You already said the death knell for them, which is that they lost to the other 2 SEC teams in the conversation.
24 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
South Carolina is out.
Yeah, we're going to out South Carolina.
Okay.
We're having a conversation between 3 SEC teams. They lost to the other 2. We don't need to continue down the South Carolina
last
path.
one here is Miami. 2 losses, Georgia Tech and in Syracuse.
Okay.
Their best wins, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Louisville.
Okay. All right, we're done here. We're done here. Yeah. Good night, Miami. It was you had a good run. You honestly exceeded my expectations for you this year. Good job, Miami. You wasted one hell of a quarterback. Austin says, I think Kyle laid out the most fun scenario, which is Clemson beating SMU and SMU versus Bama for the 12th spot. 100%. And by the way, I think, but that's a next week conversation. That's not what we're doing this week. But I think there's also an interesting case. I think there's also an interesting case if Iowa State just barely beats Arizona State. I think they're also in that conversation. Arizona State is a hot team right now. And Alabama, yeah, I mean that's 3 losses in the Big 12. Unfortunate. So yeah, I mean the unfortunate truth is that Arizona State, like Auburn, like Florida, is a team that got a lot better as the season went. But when you're talking about the playoffs, you really can't make that argument, unfortunately.
Yep.
Not I mean, you can make that argument, but you can't make that argument with 3 losses.
Yep.
Like you can kind of make that argument, but if it's too close, you're I mean, like Ohio State kind of made that argument in 2014, right? Yeah, we sucked when we played Virginia Tech, but we're better now. But that was 1 loss versus 3. And also, granted, it was a 4-team playoff versus a 12-team playoff. It's getting really hard to get. We don't have comps anymore, I think is an interesting situation we find ourselves in. We don't really have historical comps for what a 12-team playoff looks like. Could Arizona State get credit for being a lot better now versus they were earlier in the season? Might the playoff committee do that? I talked myself out of that position. I was going to say it very definitively that doesn't matter. Well, why not? Are you much better now than you were when you got those losses? Maybe. If it's a tight enough decision, maybe that factors in. I totally talked myself out of the point I was making, if I'm being honest. All right. Jack State, Western Kentucky, Army, BYU, none of these teams. It's going to be the Mountain West, right? We totally agree on this.
100%.
Okay.
100%.
It's going to be the 4 conferences we expected it to be, plus the Mountain West. And we've been counting Boise in for a while, but UNLV with Tulane losing is the. If Tulane had not lost to Memphis, we would have had a more interesting playoff scenario as far as the 5th conference champion spot, but that's not what happened. So in that case, chaos kind of simplified things.
It did. Yep.
Which is actually what chaos theory, you know what? Never mind. We don't need to get into physics. Notre Dame.
I feel well, we still have to decide, Jared. We still have to decide here.
We did get rid of the other options, so good on us for that.
I say Ole Miss. I think I heard right. Jared thinks Alabama. Who in the chat here? I guess the tiebreaker.
Yeah, Spikes and Austin. What do you guys say? Bama versus Ole Miss. Watch them go 1-1. Actually, watch Austin make a choice, and then watch Spikes just immediately.
Nope,
no, okay.
They both did Bama.
I thought Spikes was going to be a smart ass and just say whatever the opposite Austin did just to screw with us. I don't agree with it, but that's not what's. Oh, well, that's a different. No, we're not trying to predict the playoff committee. This is Kyle and I's choice right now. Or I guess also.
Yeah,
we're not trying to predict right now.
The committee will choose Alabama, but I think that the right answer is Ole Miss.
Okay. I would say South Carolina. Well, we eliminated South Carolina. They lost to Ole Miss and Bama. Then he says Ole Miss. Spikes, are you still opposite of Austin? He changed his answer too.
All right, while we try to get this straight now, we're going to take our second ad break real quick here. So theswoopcast.com is your main site for anything and everything Ohio State. Swoopcast related here. Patreon, Discord, YouTube, merch, Spotify, 7071 store, and much, much more here. A lot of news in the portal right now. The signing day is coming up here. Now is a great time to join us over the Discord. We're going to get everybody updated, get you some behind the scene news. If you become a Patreon as well, a lot of great information as the season starts to wind down, but things are still red hot with news here. So we'll go ahead and take our second ad break and be right back.
Oops, wrong share. Uh, Spikes did say Mississippi, so I lost.
Cheerwine is good. Cheerwine is good, Austin. Yes.
I feel like that's a very southern thing.
It is a very southern thing, Jared.
It is. All right. It's North Carolina.
Yes, and North Carolina is a southern.
So here we are. We have Alabama just on the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
We have Clemson, Iowa State, and UNLV on the bubble simply because they're in the conference championship game and they can be. Ole Miss is also kind of on the bubble, although they're on the positive side of the bubble, whereas we currently have Alabama on the negative side of the bubble. Now that we have the playoff scenario laid out, Kyle, who should be in S tier? Who do you think are the teams you would say right now most likely to win it all?
I would say Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame.
So right back to where we were. All right.
Yep.
I still think Ohio State's just as likely as the rest of them, but I understand that we can't leave them in S tier with 2 losses.
Mm-hmm.
At least Michigan can't win at all. Small victories. Yeah. Yeah. I don't care about ordering them. I'm not trying to predict the seeding. We'll put UNLV over here. We'll put Clemson over here, and we'll put. I'm just gonna, for the sake of making this look as clean as possible, put Iowa State over here. All right. All right. That's our tier list, Kyle. Austin, I think, said he had an M tier suggestion. Who do you got in the who's your M tier suggestion, Austin? Season is over for most teams. Yes. This team did not make a bowl. Okay. They lost all 3 of their trophy games, which is saying a lot for them. Wisconsin. Whew. What did Wisconsin end up at? And where were we expecting them to be?
Wisconsin ended up
5-7.
5-7, 3-6 in the Big Ten. Now here's the thing. What was their expectations?
Yes.
Because looking at the schedule, lost to Alabama. Yes. USC, I would have said yes to that. Penn State, I would have said yes. Iowa, I think toss up. Losing to Oregon at the beginning of the season, yes. Nebraska, I would have said yes at the beginning of the season. So that's 5 losses right there. Then you add in Minnesota in there as well, and then the loss to Iowa in there. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say that's M tier related because they lost maybe one more game than predicted here. I wouldn't think that's M tier at all.
Where did they finish in the Big Ten?
15th.
15th in the Big Ten?
Tied for 14th. Well, I don't know how tiebreakers are, but Michigan State and Wisconsin has the same record. Actually, right. UCLA, Nebraska, Michigan State, and Wisconsin are all 3-6 in the Big Ten. But so Nebraska is the only one that's 6-6.
Let me say this: Wisconsin was predicted to finish 8th by Pick 6 preview.
Okay.
So to be 15th is a drastic fall off. Agree?
Yeah. I would agree. That is.
I don't know that the only they have like a predictive record on here, but I would say that's a pretty decent drop off. So, quite frankly, yeah, I think we can put Wisconsin down here.
Okay. Let me ask this then, since we're talking about end of the season and teams that didn't live up to expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the pick six open here.
I do.
If you go to the ACC,
okay,
maybe adding another ACC team in here.
All right, I'm listening.
What was the expectations for the Tar Heels?
Oh, searching UNC's not going to work on here. Can I do Tar Heel?
Tar Heel. They did fire their head coach. Yes,
they did in fact fire their head coach. Hold on, I'm gonna have to scroll. Kyle, keep talking. I have to do some scrolling.
They finished 12th in the ACC, 6-6, 3-5 in the ACC. Did not have that. They lost to teams like James Madison, to Duke, to
Sorry, where did they finish in conference?
12th.
They were predicted to go 8th. I mean, I don't think the expectations were that high to begin with. I would venture to say, which is to say, I don't think the Tar Heels deserve M tier. Like, you have to have had like some expectations to make it into M tier, and I don't think North Carolina had those expectations.
Okay.
Now, if they were projected 8th and they finished 16th, then okay, then we can have a conversation. I know we had low expectations for Purdue, but Purdue couldn't have started every game. Could have started every game this year with a 34-point lead, and they still would have finished just 6-6. I did correct myself, Spikes. I mean, Purdue sucks, but they still. I mean, that's a hell of a stat. Just for your credit, Spikes, that's a hell of a stat, and that's embarrassing. But it's Purdue. Screw it. Like, it's hard to call Purdue a massive disappointment, quite frankly. Where was Arizona projected? I feel like they fell off of a cliff. Arizona.
What about another name I want to throw in there, because we talked about possibly putting him in there, but with their 20-point loss to LSU this weekend, what about Oklahoma? They finished the season 6-6, 2-6 in conference.
They beat Bama. They get a pass. I mean, I don't think it's that simple.
Well,
I don't think you can.
I have to ask the question then, Austin. If they get the pass for that, does Michigan get the pass then?
Yeah. See, that's why I didn't. That's why I rejected that. Arizona was expected to tie for 4th in the Big 12.
Different.
Where did Arizona finish in the Big 12?
I'm scrolling up. Arizona finished second to last, which is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15.
Yeah, they were expected to finish 4th, 5th in the Big 12.
Ooh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Listen, I don't think those were fair expectations. They lost their coach. They lost a lot from last year's team. I don't know if those expectations were fair, but I'm still going to M tier them regardless.
Okay.
By the way, Arizona State, to Arizona State's credit, their expectation was 14th. Arizona State was projected to go 14th in the Big 12, and they will finish either 1st or 2nd. Huge credit to Arizona State there. And
Indiana.
Since we're doing
that is Indiana.
Yeah, and I was about to say, and since we're having that conversation, Indiana. I mean,
Indiana was projected dead last.
I think they were
they were
tied for
projected
dead last.
in the Big Ten.
Yeah. I mean, they were, like I said, at least tied.
Oh yeah, tied.
Yeah.
Tied for last.
Tied with Purdue for dead last in the Big Ten. And they will finish 4th in the Big Ten.
Yeah, Purdue was dead last. Yeah. Purdue did not win a single conference game. Finished the season 1-11. Went on a 11 game losing streak after winning their opening game
against
Indiana State.
So they didn't beat an FBS team this year.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they could have at least played Ooey Pooey. I just wanted to say Ooey Pooey. That's literally what that was. Any chance I get a chance to mention that a school exists with the name Ooey Pooey, I'm gonna say it. Indiana University, Purdue University, Ooey Pooey.
We got 3 Big Ten teams in M tier.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't know if we would have put Wisconsin in there if we weren't we're familiar with the Big Ten. You know what I mean? Would we have even thought to put Wisconsin in there if we weren't Big Ten fans? So I think there's going to be a bit of a Big Ten bias. It's just based off of our awareness. Where was USC projected, by the way? I'm not sure they even deserve M tier. They may have crawled their way back out of M tier, quite frankly. I think they finished the season better than they started the season. USC was predicted 6th. Where did they actually finish?
Who was it?
USC.
USC finished
in the Big Ten.
11th.
11th. Yeah.
Or tied for 9th, I guess, depending on how you want to rank them here. They were tied for 9th in terms of conference.
So
record,
9th.
But
from 6 to 9 isn't terrible. It's nice, and as a matter of fact. USC may have crawled their way back out of M tier, despite a lackluster start. Yeah. Vote to move USC out of M tier? Pass or fail, Kyle?
Yeah, we can move them out.
Now we'll see if they keep their coach. I think they will.
Well, USC, Miller Moss is transferring out.
Yeah, he is. I don't know. I don't know enough about the situation there to know whose choice that is. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, if you weren't intimately familiar with Ohio State the way we're intimately familiar with Ohio State, you may have said the same thing about Kyle McCord last year. Knowing that was, let's say, mutual. All right, Kyle, is this our tier list? Are we good?
I think so. I was just going through each one, and God, there's been a lot of lows, some highs. I think the ones that take the cream on the top is definitely Florida State and Oklahoma State. Just how far those two have dropped.
Yeah, no. Florida State obviously is the emmiest of M tiers this year,
especially. Yeah. Just that talent on that roster. It's.
Yeah, I mean, they were projected to be number 3 in the Big 12. Obviously a terrible season for them. Where did they finish in the Big 12?
Which one?
Oklahoma State.
Dead last. They did not win a single conference game.
Jeez.
They went 3.
Holy crap. I knew it was bad.
They went 3-9, which is still a better record than Florida State, but at least Florida State won a conference game.
In the ACC. Listen, top to bottom, the Big 12 is better than the ACC right now. I'll say it. Florida State's decommitted class
guess,
actually
yeah.
has a higher ranking. Holy crap. Fun fact from Austin. Florida State's decommitted class actually has a higher ranking than the class they currently have committed.
Yikes.
Yeah. Single losses
Mm-hmm.
don't affect recruits. I know a lot of Ohio State fans are freaking out about what this loss means in terms of recruiting. Basically nothing. That being said, if you lose all your games, that will affect your recruits. It's fine, Austin. Like, everyone's a little upset for obvious reasons. But the fact of the matter is that single game results very rarely have any effect on recruits. I could probably tell you one story about a player who it affected and actually aided in them coming to Ohio State, but it's literally the only time I've ever heard that story. In following recruiting for a long time now, I have literally heard of one instance of a player being persuaded in a different direction by the result of a single football game. And like I said, I'll say that was in favor of Ohio State. I'll tell you after the pod ends who that was, if anyone is interested. But Kyle, I think it's time to end the episode. Do you have anything in Kyle's corner?
How about a 5-star quarterback commit?
Yes.
Brady Edmonds from Huntington Beach, California. Got a kid out in California committing early, 2027 class.
Yep.
Long ways to go still, but
yeah.
This is the second one in a week span that have verbally committed to Ohio State now. Yeah, it's their second one.
In the 2020s.
Their second one in a week span. Yeah.
Specifically the 2027 class, because they picked up a commit for the 2026 class recently, and we should be getting clarity on a lot of 2025 players over the next couple days. I don't have time to go into a whole thing there, but I will tell you, I keep an active, updated mock class going in the Discord constantly. You can get for the 2025 and 2026 class, I have a actively updated mock class running constantly. I also have a 2027 watch list for the record.
Yeah.
That's not a full mock class yet. I don't have enough info to put together a list of 25-ish players, but I do have an active mock class for both the 2025 and 2026 classes. You can see those at discord.thesloopcast.com. Always be plugging.
Yeah, now Day and Kelly have their quarterbacks, one for 25, now for another 20 for 27. I think they can. I'm not going to say can relax on the 26 one, but I don't think they're going to have to be in high urgency to get a top tier quarterback.
It's not a matter
class.
I know what you're trying to say, but I don't think it's a matter of relaxing. I think that a lot of quarterbacks are going to see an absolute stud in the 2025 class and an absolute stud in the 2027 class, and that's going to scare off a lot of 2025 kids. That's just the reality of how quarterback recruiting works. Austin says, no bullshit. The mock classes and watch list are worth the prices of admission, which is $0. Yeah, those are not behind the Discord paywall. There are some Discord paywalled channels. Those do exist. The mock classes are not behind the paywall. You could join the Discord. Come join the Discord. We have a full roster that you can just look up at any time. We have a breaking news channel just to stay up on all the latest. We have mock classes for 25 and 26, a watch list for 27. We just launched our departure tracker for the year. You could come join the Discord server, never say a word, and still get a ton of value. And everything I mentioned is unpaywalled in the Discord server. Come join the Discord server, discord.sloopcast.com. You literally have nothing to lose. Literally nothing to lose. Spike says he cosigns. Now's the best time of the year for the breaking news. The breaking news, the recruiting, the departure tracker. We'll also start a transfer portal tracker to go along with the mock classes. We'll be starting that up soon. But yeah, I guess that's an additional plug for the end of the show. Kyle, are you good with Kyle's Corner?
I'm good.
All right. Tonight's ending music, just like on Monday, will be Superdestroyer, a Columbus-based band. So with all of that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, this is Superdestroyer.